Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DiChiara here, the founder of Bedrock Business Builders and Bedrock University. And today I have a very special guest on for the second round. I don't know what she was thinking, but Lynn Murphy, who I've had the pleasure of interviewing a couple of weeks ago, has a whole nother area that we want to cover, and I think it's important. And let me just give you a little bit of background on Lynn. She's what they call a leadership development coach. And I'm going to ask her to explain exactly what that means for success-minded people. So if you're not success-minded, don't even bother calling Lynn. And what she specializes in is something seriously that I never realized, because I always have my head in the sand. I never realized that it was that important in a small business. And it's what they call interpersonal skills and team dynamics. Like those are words I understand, like if you're on a football team and all of that stuff, but I'm going to let Lynn explain that to you, but she's an expert in that. Now, as far as her background, she did too many things. I can't even list them all, but she's been a speaker, a business owner, a negotiator, a workshop leader. Put it this way, Lynn's an expert in what she does. And that's important because hopefully I only interview experts. So that being said, hello, Lynn, how are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm great. Thanks for having me back again.
Oh, are you kidding me? I was so surprised when you said yes.
How could I turn down an offer like that?
So, let's go right to the core of what, because I'm so interested in this, is whatever you call it, it's a way to measure the stuff that I never thought you could measure. The stuff that goes on between everybody in the workplace.
Joe, it's the cost of conflict, and you're a CPA, so you're used to having very clear numbers and specific things that you measure, and you don't think about measuring the cost of conflict. That's where that interpersonal skills come in. When people are fighting with each other, they're not productive, and there are all kinds of things which we'll go over today. There are all kinds of things that get in the way of making money and serving your customers. People, I said I was pleased to come on again. People don't like to talk about conflict. So it's really great that you're willing to talk about it and to share this with your clients, because it's so important.
It is important. And, I am an accountant, but one thing I always realized with businesses, and this, we run out of time. As soon as you start a business, you run out of time. So it's always, for me, it's always time management. You got to make the most out of your time. You want to be productive. It's hard to measure that. I never thought that, hey, if these two people aren't getting along for whatever reason, I knew it's not good.
Yeah.
But to put a dollar figure on that, so that I'm an accountant, I'm like, yeah, let's put a cost to that.
I know. When you saw this instrument, you just lit up, right? Because now you can put some sort of number to that. You can look at that. We can raise people's awareness of what it costs. And it's not like the numbers that you're working with where it's an exact number, but getting people to think about, if you're in a conflict with someone and you're withholding information that needs to be part of a decision, that decision is not going to be as good. So what does that decision cost you when it's not done with all of the input that you need? Or if people are just not working with each other, withholding time, okay, I'll get back to you tomorrow, and then it's a week later. There's a cost to that. So what you and I are talking about today with this instrument is thinking about, what is that number? If your productivity is this much and then you're in an argument with somebody half the time, that reduces your productivity. So
Right, but
think
to be
about
able to put a
putting that.
dollar figure, I'm
Yeah.
fascinated. I want to see this. But one thing I want to make clear here, what you do in my mind was always for big companies,
Hmm.
that had 50 employees and they're trying to find ways to run the business because it's gotten out of hand. Does this apply to the sole proprietor in his business?
It absolutely does. It doesn't
On purpose?
necessarily apply in the same way because they don't have a large number of employees. But there are people who are, first of all, supporting them, working with them. Eh, You know, maybe there's someone who they hire online, a webmaster. They're the different things that you've been talking to people about how you put that business together. So having conflict with those people can definitely degrade productivity. And then with their clients, their customers, what happens there? Thinking about how we tweak this instrument that we're looking at, which is more for corporate, but raising the awareness. Even one of the things we talk about is health benefits or health costs. So
Right.
that definitely is one that applies.
Yeah, and you know that they've quantified healthcare because they got all kinds of economists and stuff.
Yeah.
But before we go on, and this is more for me because I'm just curious, when you say conflict, because we went through
Okay.
this the last time, conflict to me is somebody's button heads. Is
Right.
that what conflict is?
That's one form of conflict, but conflict itself is any place where two or more people disagree about how something should be done. Now you can have productive conflict. And when we're brainstorming, the group you and I belong to, if we're brainstorming, we've got conflicting ideas, but we're doing it in a productive way so that we get the maximum outcome from that. So if it's used in a productive way, conflict can be great. We have to have that. If everybody thought exactly the way you think, you wouldn't be able to expand your business. And I'm speaking to you and to your business owners. If everybody was just you, you're not going as far. So you
Oh,
have to
if
have.
everybody, I'm sorry, you just reminded me of a Twilight Zone where the
Oh,
guy wished that everybody was like him and he
yeah.
wasn't that good looking. And there were women walking around with his face and it didn't end too good. But yeah, I always said this. I said, if I had to do business with me, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
it's hard.
So there's that kind of productive conflict, which is a difference of opinion, and you work together, you can collaborate, you can have conversations, work through statistics, bringing in facts, whatever. That's very productive and it gets you farther ahead. So don't say, just because it's conflict, we don't want it. We do want it, but it has to be the productive kind. But
Okay.
it's the destructive kind, the kind that's not getting people anywhere, the kind that's causing these problems with productivity and cost overruns and sabotage and those types of things, that if it's not dealt with well, and that's what I teach my clients, is how to have productive conflict rather than the destructive conflict.
So you also brought up something that really hits me because I have people that work remotely,
Mm-hmm.
some people that I've never actually even spoken to, which is
Mm-hmm.
hard to believe.
Interesting.
But we're communicating.
Right.
And I'm thinking, wow, that time that the web developer didn't do what I asked her to do, and maybe she took my email wrong. Is
Yeah.
that conflict?
Yes. Yeah. That's conflict. Sure it is.
Okay.
And what you brought up just now, Joe, is that miscommunication piece figures into that conflict. So if there's miscommunication, you think you said one thing, she's taking it another way, and then she goes, huh, I'm not going to take care of Joe's stuff right now because he made me mad. So,
Right.
you're losing that productivity piece there because you're not getting the best out of her in a timely fashion. Now, some
So,
people may be able to look past that, but not everybody.
yeah.
Especially if it's someone working remotely whom you never see, who's got all these other clients. She's not dedicated just to yours, and you make her mad. where do you think your project's going on her priority list?
And there's millions of people in my shoes, and they're at both ends.
Yeah.
And
So, we talked last time about taking a look at conflict and how, whether you want the outcome or the relationship, but if you're working for outcomes, what steps do you have to take to make sure the communication's clear, to make sure that people are working for the same outcome?
so would you say in a nutshell, because I was going over the information that you gave me, in a nutshell, I would look at what you do is you're just like clearing a path so that everybody could be on the same page.
You could say that what I'm doing is raising awareness so
Okay.
that people look at this, just like you said, never thought of it this way.
Yeah.
Looking at these things, your customers, your clients there in Bedrock, looking at this and saying, okay, it's not going to solve it just like that. I'm not going to clear that path with one meeting or one workshop or one coaching session, but raising the awareness. And then when people see these things happening, going, oh, wait a minute, I just heard, that this could be a problem. And especially for business owners, what is the business problem here? Is this a personality conflict that could be something that's going to impact my bottom line negatively? So I raise awareness, and then I give people tools and skills to work with it. They've got to do the work.
Yeah, and that's important, and that's really why I started, these interviews, because to raise awareness.
Right.
And I skipped over part of who you serve, and there's a reason for that, because you basically serve everybody. And when you think about it, because I'm like, oh, she serves entrepreneurs, hospitals, not-for-profits, consultants, no, that's who you are. But I'm like, you serve organizations, really.
I serve organizations. That's been my focus for close to 20 years.
Okay, so you're not doing this, like, you're not going to do marriage conflict, right?
Oh, no. Oh, no. No. Okay, so we'll tell your audience, I am a trained mediator, and that's the last thing I want to do. I'll do business mediation. I will not do family and
right.
marriage
Okay.
mediation.
So,
no.
So Lynn, I think we've laid the groundwork for what you do, what you bring to the table. And I really want to get to, unless you have something else you want to add, I want to get to the, how do we crunch the numbers on this thing?
No, that's great. It's great.
So I have this website up here that you told me, should I share the screen, or you want to go into it?
Well, let's talk about the different elements of this.
What is this exactly? Is there a word for it, or?
Well, it's a cost of conflict instrument, an assessment that people can look at, put their numbers in, and come up with a number of what conflict's costing them. Now, when we use this in an organization, we have the person either take their own personal conflict. A lot of times I'm working with managers, and Joe, you can't believe what these studies are showing, that managers spend anywhere from 15% of their time to 25, 30, some of these studies say 40% of their time dealing with conflict. So what this instrument does is asks them to look at one conflict, and then we'll project this out, but take one conflict and look through these different elements of that to see what that one conflict is costing. And they'll look at what their income is, or what if it's a manager, what their
right, what the salary is.
Yeah, the salary plus the burden on that.
So it would be like the cost of that person per hour, let's say.
Per hour, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if we're saying they spend 25% of their time, take the salary plus the burden and figure out what 25% of that is, and that's what's costing the organization. Now, with individuals, with the solopreneurs that you're dealing with, they maybe look at it a little differently. They may not be able to come up with this kind of cost, but they could look at what their annual revenue is, or monthly revenue, however they want to look at that, and start looking at what some of these conflicts are that they might be having.
Well, that's really what I want to get to, because I want to look at this and, I have a good friend. He's very smart. And he tells me, whatever happens here, you can measure it here.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to bring out the awareness.
Yes.
But once you go through this, I'm thinking of ways that I want to see if there's ways, number one, how I could apply it to myself, because we all have to be our own guinea pigs, right?
Right.
And then seeing how I can, bring this to my clients and my friends and stuff.
So did you go through this and figure something for yourself?
No, I didn't want to jump the gun.
Okay.
And I completely forgot about it.
Oh, there's that
honestly,
too.
I didn't know it was like an online thing. I have the document here that you gave me.
Right.
And I honestly didn't go through it too much.
Yeah. Well, and
you caught me.
And when I was trained and certified in this many years ago, we had paper. Now the organization has evolved and they've got that online instrument, so we can give your listeners that online link to do.
Okay.
But I still like to look at this because I can send it to people like you, and we've got it printed out. We can take a look at it.
Yeah.
But this was developed by Dr. Dan Dana in the late 90s, I think, and he started Mediation Training Institute. I don't believe he's still there. I think he's retired from that. And it's connected with Eckerd University now. But he created this instrument because he was working in organizations on what does this really cost. And they do mediation training. So this was one of those things that raised people's awareness. And then he drove them to getting trained as mediators or doing workshops, teaching managers. One of the things I do is teach managers to be mediators. I mean, not the whole 40 hours training that I went through, but teaching them how to mediate disputes and get that productivity kicked up again. So
yeah, I just thought of something. I was at a client, we're having lunch one day, and two of his employees, now these guys work in the same office. They literally got into a fist fight.
Oh no. Yeah. Well, and you see, here's the thing to think about with that is what led up to that. They didn't just walk into that lunchroom or that cafeteria that day and decide to fisticuffs, to duke it out. There's something that led up to that. And so if managers or your clients can learn to target that before it gets to that, I talk about it to my clients as there's sand in the gears, okay?
Yeah.
They're these little things. And from a mechanical standpoint, if you've got sand in the gears, that eventually is going to break down and cost you a lot of money.
Right.
So how do you keep that sand from getting into the gears? How do you catch it before it gets so expensive?
Right.
And coming to fisticuffs, that's extreme. And just think about what has to happen in that organization with those two guys who were duking it out.
Well, here's the thing, Lynn. Like, you understand that conflict isn't good for the business. I understand it. And the business owner understands it, I think. But there's another thing they understand even better. And that's, hey, this is how much it's costing you.
Right.
You give them $1 on a piece of paper on the tax return saying, oh, this is what your profit is, and this is what it could have been.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, and you might look at something too, if the profit isn't what they're hoping for, then drill down with them, have a conversation. What is it, where is it that conflict might be part of that? Whether or not you can put it on a P&L, but where is the conflict coming into this?
Well, how about this? Forget about, how much it affected your profit. What if it's putting you out of business? What if that conflict is literally because And that's what my thing is. There's 3 million small businesses that die each year. People that go out of business, 3 million of them. What if this helps some of them stay in business?
Mm-hmm. You'd be doing a great service to your clients,
Well,
Joe. You can get
you
them
would
to
be.
understand that.
You would be, because you're going to give us the information on how to do it.
Yeah, but you're the one who's starting to raise the awareness. Yeah, so
Well, I'm one person, Lynn.
okay.
You're
Well,
gonna
I'm
have,
working on it too.
you just signed up, so
All right. I'm there.
okay.
I'm there.
So where do we go from here?
Well, let's talk about the worksheet.
Okay.
And we can just go through that. The key on the worksheet is to identify a conflict. So maybe we take the two guys who were duking it out and just make up something about what they are. Or if you want to take a look at this from your standpoint as a solopreneur, think about a conflict that you have. We'll put you on the hot seat here, Joe.
I've had plenty of conflicts, believe me.
I don't know. Do you want to be the guinea pig, or do we want to make
Yeah.
something?
No, I'm not. I'm transparent.
Okay. All right. So you're realizing, okay, so think of one conflict that we're going to take, and then realizing that you can't put the kind of numbers to it that you put in your P&L that you work with all the time. But we're taking percentages of things and looking at what you could have made that you're not making.
Okay.
You know.
So let me think of one. Okay.
Okay. So the first factor that we've got here is wasted time. So when you think about how much time have you spent, I don't know, tell us a little about it. What have you wasted time on over a conflict?
My website.
Okay.
And I had a feeling a lot of people could relate to this.
And what kind of conflict?
Just never being able to get on the same page with my web designer.
Okay. All right. So some communication skills there that he or you or both are lacking, that you're not on the same page there. So how much time do you think that wasted?
Honestly, I spent, and are you talking in hours or like years?
But
Because no, I mean, the woman was with me for a long time. She did a lot of good work, but at the end I needed, something specific.
mm-hmm.
And so let's say that was the last 6 months. I wasted hundreds of hours easily.
So if we look at your time, I don't know if you allocate a per hour to the time that you've spent.
Well, forget about what I paid her.
Well, that's the other element to it too.
I'm getting sick now because like all that time I wasted. That even if I did a 25% of what I would bill a client, I lost thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Tens of thousands.
All right. So you're looking at your billable time, your billable rate. And if you spent 100 hours even.
Oh my God.
And you said you probably spent more than that, right?
I got to take a deep breath.
Yeah. Get out the nitroglycerin, right?
Oh man.
So just think about that. And then think about what you were paying her and how much she was billing you for time that wasn't productive.
And
Right?
I don't put it all on her. Actually,
Okay.
I got to put it mostly on myself.
Okay.
Because what you just brought out, and this is what I'm honestly sick about, is I think if I spent more time explaining and communicating to her what I wanted and making sure that she understood,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe not giving her 10 pages to do at once. Maybe I should have given her 1 page,
Hmm.
right?
Could be. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So thinking about how much that could be, and you don't have to put a number to that, but in your head, you're putting a number to that.
well,
You're wasting.
I can't put a not, you know, because you got to multiply that by years of other things that
Yeah.
never, and nothing ever goes perfect, you know.
No.
But I'm in business, and that time hit my bottom, hit my pocket,
Yeah.
literally. It
Because you could have
wasn't
been
in
billing
dollars.
clients.
It wasn't in dollars, but it was in time.
Right.
That
But
could have,
time translates to dollars
yes,
because you didn't have that time to bill clients,
right.
to go
So
out, whether to market.
how about to go on vacation? Well, okay, so now you've raised my awareness, okay?
Okay.
And my friend John Limbacher says this about marketing. He's like, you got to teach them, and then, you know, you just like flatten me. I'm
But
I'm hurt. What did I do to myself, you know? So
yeah,
now what John tells me, my friend John Limbacher, you know him,
I know him.
your job is to pick me up and tell me what the solution is.
Well, I think you came up with the solution yourself, Joe. You talked about better communication, thinking through, spending a little more time thinking through, am I clearly explaining this? Do I know what I want? Or am I just throwing something out to her, having a picture here, but not communicating it clearly, or not even having a picture there, but just throwing it out and saying, you know, do this, do that. So
Okay.
spending the time up front.
That you just, because you said something, and I realized this, and I said it in the back of my mind. I said, maybe the problem was I didn't even really know what I wanted,
Could be.
you know, and that's the truth. I'm thinking back now, and I'm like, you know what, maybe I was looking for more direction, and she couldn't give it to me.
Could be.
But if I spent the time, and that's what you do, it's interpersonal skills, right?
Right.
I'm terrible at it. I just realized that.
So, you know, a conversation with her, or even doing some research on other people's websites, or sitting down with her and saying, I don't know what I want. Can you talk me through this? Maybe she could, maybe she couldn't. Maybe she wasn't the one you should have been using.
Right.
Maybe there was someone else who could have done that creative piece and gotten that out of your head, you know, what it is you were envisioning or not envisioning, and then give it to her to do the technical side. Because there are
Right.
people who are good at one and not at the other. So, you know, not because you hired her, you didn't have to stick with her. You
Well,
didn't
I
have
could
to
have
give her the
stuck
whole
with
thing.
her, but I could have got somebody to fill in the gap that
Yeah.
she couldn't fill.
Yeah. So
But I think what I'm
recognizing.
getting from this is, you know, I should have been more clear.
Yeah.
Let's say I was confused, which, you know, I'm an accountant and I want to try to build a website. That doesn't mix.
Right.
I'm confused,
Okay.
right? So I'm looking for direction.
Mm-hmm.
I should have conveyed that to her.
Yes.
What I said was, oh, I see this website. Can you make it like that?
Hmm.
And she would make it like that, and I would look at it and say, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
You know, but it came down to, yeah, I didn't invest the time I should have for something that was so important to my business.
Right.
I should have spent more time with it. I should have been more intentional.
And there's the tip for your clients.
Yeah.
Think about that ahead of time. Be more intentional and communicate more clearly. Yeah.
And,
Great tip.
and uh, it always comes full circle, because this is what I tell people about when they start their business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go into business. You got to have an idea about what you want to accomplish. So you just
Right.
told me, yeah, I should have applied the same thing to my website project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, it always comes back to us. We know I don't follow my own stuff. No, seriously. And that's why we have to talk. That's why we have mastermind groups.
Right. And coaches and
Yeah.
raising that awareness.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is fascinating. When you did a great job. Are we going to go through the calculation? Or are you going to, is
No,
that it?
we don't need to go through that. Let people go through their calculation on their own because
Okay.
they're probably thinking of something completely different than you are. But you've got an idea in your head that you lost a lot of money on that.
And that's the whole
Yeah.
purpose of the exercise, right?
Right. Right.
You're right. I don't need to see the numbers now.
I mean, you could do that on your own, but you just feel bad. You'd feel worse than you feel already. So,
Well, no, I feel, you know, I could kick myself until the end of time, and that's not going to, you know, be productive.
no.
But what I can do with this is say, hey, now I know that, you know, and it's just dawned on me, every time you have something with two people, that's a chance for conflict, right?
Mhm. Right.
So when you go into every situation, you got to be prepared. What am I going to, what do I, you know, if it's you, talking about me, if it's me, I just hired a couple of people to do a telemarketing campaign. And normally I would just say, here's the script, go get me leads. I think what I'm going to do is actually go on the phone, listen to them, and see exactly what's going on.
Yeah. Take time, think about what your outcome is that you want and have those conversations. That helps them too, because I'm sure they want to be productive and
Right.
not just be wasting time doing things. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, it's a win-win.
it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they need to know you, not just, okay, you're a CPA, tax business, whatever it is. They need to know Joe's personality
And
and bake that in. What are you good at? Where's your stretch? Where's your discomfort zone that they can kind of accommodate? Make sure that they're doing things that are going to work for you.
well, yeah, and I think the thing is that when you go into, like, I'm hiring two guys to do telemarketing. They want to be successful.
Sure they do.
You know, they're not taking the job like, oh, we're going to build this guy, we're going to run the app. No, they want to succeed. So it's in both our interests.
Well, and they need to be able to answer questions about your business if they're talking to people. They need some in-depth. They don't just need the script. I hate that when somebody, calling from the script, or even when I'm calling somebody and they've got a script. And if I ask something that's off script, they don't know what to do. Okay, just get past all that or send me to somebody else. But
Right.
so that if they know you a little bit, they can do a much better job for you.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that my mom always told me was that I always think that people know exactly what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, can't you see
It's
it?
it's obvious, right? How
Yeah,
could they
but
not see it?
you know, I realize that it's from my perspective.
Yeah.
So I got to look at it from their perspective, I guess, right?
Well, it's kind of a joint perspective. You do have to look at it from their perspective,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
and they have to look at it from your perspective. So communication, got to have that piece in there, and effective communication. Handing somebody a piece of paper or something is not necessarily effective communication.
Or email. Email and text have to be the
Yeah.
worst
Yeah.
ways to go. I've gotten in so much trouble.
Yeah. Did I share with you last time one of my favorite quotes?
No.
George Bernard Shaw. It says, "The problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place."
Oh, that's
Because
good.
we think, okay, I got it out of my mouth. They should understand that. No, they don't.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah. So well, let's talk about a couple of these others if you
Okay.
want to
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
into those. I mean, this was just the first one, Joe, and look at the awareness that you've got from that.
That was, you mean there's more?
There's more.
Wow.
There's more. And we touched on some of those, but another factor is the reduced decision quality. And really, we've tied into that with your situation with the website thing, because you didn't have good decision quality. You didn't have all the information. She didn't have all the information. You didn't have the people there who you needed. You needed that creative piece, or you needed someone to pull out of your mind what it was you really want.
Right.
So how does that impact the project? That could be another element of that same kind of thing. Now, the third factor on this is the loss of skilled employees. Your solopreneurs will probably have people working for them like the web designer. So let's say
Yeah.
the web designer was doing a great job for you and knew you, and you said she worked for you for years, right? So she knew you. If at some point then you get into a conflict with her and she said, adios, Joe, I'm not doing this anymore, then you've got to break in somebody else,
Ah,
right?
okay. Right. This
Now,
I understand. And
yeah,
what I tell my clients is it takes long to
yeah,
train somebody,
yes,
and that's a cost.
that's a cost. So in a corporate setting, and even with your solopreneurs who are hiring people, you've got that knowledge that's gone. They've got that bank of knowledge that they had, that's gone. Then you've got the time and the expense of advertising. And even if they're not paying to advertise, there's the time. Then you got to train somebody. So there's the productivity piece that you're losing. And it takes a while to ramp up to get to be most effective. So
But
what's
what
the
about the
cost for
time you got to spend interviewing people?
that too? Yeah. That, and I'm trying to, are they, the, the factor that they're showing on this instrument says, well, so looking at annual compensation, they're saying that's 150% of salary because you got your burden on that.
And off the
Yeah.
top of my head, I would say that that's probably correct.
Yeah. So plus the advertising time, the loss of the knowledge, the interview time.
It's a black hole.
Yeah. So there's a problem with conflict. Another factor is restructuring. So if you've got two people who are working for you, the guys who got into the fight in the restaurant, if they worked right next to each other or even worked on the same project, okay, then if we want to keep them both, if we don't just kick them out the door, if we want to keep them both, do we have to move somebody around, move them to a different project? How do we separate them? And then you've got that same retraining and those kinds of costs just from restructuring, maybe
Right.
physically moving them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I have a client, they had to, and this was not because of conflict. They were growing and they needed to make more workstations. It took a month. The place was just to add like 3 more workstations. They took the whole office out. And yeah, so it's not easy to you're talking about the physical restructuring.
Well, physical restructuring, but also back to retraining people. If you physically move them, that's one thing. But if they're still on the same project and they're not getting along and you've got all this conflict going on and you want to keep them, do you move them to different projects? Do you move them to different teams? And
Yeah,
then it's almost like having a new employee. You've got to teach them whatever, get them up to speed on whatever team they're on.
right.
So there's that element. And I don't know how many employees or people that your clients have, probably not too many, but there may be
Yeah,
a
but it's
situation.
really irrelevant because the things that you're talking about is really about, the flow of business, keeping the flow of business going.
Right.
Once it's like, I don't know if you're into sports, but if it was basketball, a team they're all on the same page, they know where the next one's going before he even knows it. And businesses are like that. people get into habits and routines, and these conflicts, they hurt businesses.
Yes. Well, when you got a team that's working really well together, like your basketball story, they anticipate, they know what's going on. Everybody's got their job. It's kind of the clockwork thing. Everything's working. You pull
Yeah,
one person out of that and you put somebody else in.
you got to bring a new point guard in, you're done. It's like
Yeah.
learning all over again.
Yeah. Throws everything off. So there's that period of time when they've got to learn to work together again, but it's different. So it's not easy and it
Right.
costs. They may lose a few games, right, Joe?
Yeah, but what you're telling me is it's important that to preserve your relationships. If you have something in your business that's working, even if it's a vendor, if it's a client, and it's the same thing when I get a client. In the beginning, I got to spend a lot of time with them.
Yes.
So I know that's the other end. The cost to get a new client to replace that old client,
Right.
that's more time. So now I'm thinking about all the clients that I had conflict with, and there were definitely ways that I could have, smoothed over the relationship,
Yeah.
because we got used to each other. I've had clients for 5, 10 years, and then we just have a disagreement, and we part company.
Yeah. Well, there are some times when it's important to do that. I mean, if there are things about ethics or values, that type of thing, maybe it's time to part company. You don't want to
Yeah,
keep going down that road. But if it's something that could be resolved, like you
I'm
say,
sure there were situations where if I looked at it, like if I took a step back and looked at it differently,
mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about a couple of clients right now that, it was one client. He was under a lot of pressure. His partnership broke up. They were in a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
They were on the forensic accountants were all over me, and it got nasty,
Yeah.
But he was my client for like 12 years, and that
Mm-hmm.
one incident, I'm like, you know what? We could have got past that.
Yeah. So we're raising awareness.
Yes.
And it's just you and me right now, but hopefully people who are listening to this are saying the same things, looking at
Yeah.
what they could do differently.
Even if nobody listened to it, I got it. So we're ahead of the game.
Good, good. Well, let's look at another factor is lower motivation. So let's think about your web designer. And I think I mentioned this before.
Yeah.
If you're in conflict, you're going to the bottom of her list of priorities. If she's mad at you, and in an organization, if you've got someone working for you, working with you, even if it's just two people on the same level working together, they get mad at each other, and I'm not doing anything that helps that person.
Yeah.
Or I'll get to it. Right? Yeah.
I have a minute.
Yeah. As soon as I finish this
Yeah.
whole list. So think about the cost that rears.
Okay.
And then another factor is absenteeism, and that kind of ties in with the health costs.
Yeah.
So people could decide, I'm too angry at this person to show up because I know I got to go to a meeting with them tomorrow. I'm going to call in sick. I'm just not even going to call in. I'm just not going to show up. Maybe we don't show up for a meeting.
Yeah.
They could have health issues too, because that stress, we all know what that stress does to us.
Yep.
So the stress, especially of having to work with someone day after day after day, and you just, can't stand to see that person because that sand in the gears has really gotten to be destructive, and you haven't settled it. So there's no productive way that you've accomplished to get past that. Like you said with your client, you just walked away instead of figuring out a productive way to get together with them.
And I'm sure that there would have been. But sometimes our egos get in the way too.
Oh yeah. Oh, a lot. definitely. Sometimes that's where a mediator comes in. And I've done mediation. I told you I was a trained mediator. When you've got that neutral third party who can get you two talking to each other and knows how to direct the conversation to bring out what is it that you both want. And a lot of times in a situation like that, if I were mediating you and this client, I'd find out from each of you, what do you really want out of this? What's important to you? If it's important to both of you to stay on with this relationship that you've had for 12 years, how do we do that? And I want you both to see that you both want the same thing.
Right.
So let's figure out, let's talk through, what do you need? What does the other person need to get past that so you can preserve that relationship? Because usually in mediations, there's something that you both want. And it's a matter of bringing that out, getting someone who can help you both see that you want the same thing.
I think I'm going to cry, Lynn.
Oh, don't cry on video, Joe.
Nah.
Talk later. So there are those things that the lost time. And if you've got someone, let's say you've got several people together for a meeting, even if you're a solopreneur, you've got several people together, one person doesn't show up. They're saying, I'm not going to that meeting because Joe's going to be there. I don't want to see Joe. So they create something. Oh, I had a flat tire, or the dog ate my homework, or whatever it was. There's some excuse and they don't show up. Then think about the people in that meeting who's wasted time.
Yeah.
How much time have they wasted there? Or they show up late. That's kind of that passive aggressive way of not showing up. So we all sit around, wait for 20 minutes for somebody to show up. And
yeah, and then we all, oh, thank God you're here.
Yeah. So we just wasted 20 minutes times however many people are in the room.
Yeah.
When you could be making money.
Talking about the person that's late.
Yeah. Oh, and then they feel it when they come in, right?
So, yeah, I get the gist of this, Lynn. This is, it's what I expected, to be enlightened.
Well, and one more thing on health costs. If you do have employees and you're paying their insurance, even if they're in a group program or whatever that insurance piece is, where the company is taking care of some of it, that's going to cost you, because the more they are sick, the more they take off, the more is charged to the insurance company. The insurance company is going to raise rates eventually.
Oh, you think so?
Sure. Don't you? If you were an insurance company and this one company had all this stuff going on.
You could place a bet on that? Because I don't think anybody would take that bet.
You don't think so, huh?
No.
Yeah. So there are all kinds of things that enter into this, and we can adapt this instrument. I think we have right now adapted it to people who are solopreneurs or small businesses.
I think the way that you got it out of me, which you tricked me into, I was like, yeah, you know what? I lost a lot of time.
Yeah.
Unnecessarily.
Unnecessarily.
That's the word that kills me. Unnecessarily.
Yes.
So you know what? It's not going to happen anymore.
Promise?
That's it. And well, I never thought of it in those terms.
Yeah. And for someone like you with your CPA background, the numbers guy, this just rocked your world. Not in a good way.
What did I say? We don't, I can't see the forest from the trees when it comes to my business.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I talk to people like you. This has been, awesome. Maybe we'll find another subject to talk about.
No, I'd be happy to. Go ahead.
Anything else to add, or you want to tell us how people can get in touch with you and, benefit from this sort of thing? Because this isn't the only thing that you do. No,
it's not. I'd love to tell people how to reach me, and I would love to work with your clients. But I do have to say, Joe, I think that what you're doing for people in that niche you're working with is just phenomenal. because people starting out in business, small businesses, don't have the resources that you're providing. And to raise their awareness, even just on what I know that you and I've talked about these 2 times, I think that's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I
Well,
really think your clients are going to benefit.
I appreciate that. And really, I'm doing the same thing. I'm just trying to raise awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as contacting me, it's Lynn, Lynn, at keyinnovative.com. So key like lock and key, Key Innovative. And Joe, you'll put those in the notes.
Yes.
And I'm on Facebook. There's a business page, Key Innovative Business Solutions on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I could give a phone number if you want a phone number. Do we want that or?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my office number is 602-253-7788. And leave a message because I'm not always there and I will call you back. And just tell me you're not a robocall because then I really will call you back.
Yeah.
And the website is keyinnovativebusinesssolutions.com. So I would love to do, whether it's one-on-one coaching with you, set up workshops. If we've got a group to do workshops, I love doing that. And anything I can do to help, Joe, anything for your clients, I'd be happy to.
I appreciate that. Now, do you just work with people locally or can you do this remotely?
I can do some of this remotely, but do coaching, I do that remotely. My workshops, I used to travel for that. I'm really doing the workshops locally now, but we could do something on Zoom like you and I are doing.
Well, you might, we should talk because what you're doing, and, I learned that you can reach a lot more people remotely. Yeah. And I think that what you're doing is important.
Yes. If we can set up something like that, we could get some people on Zoom and have shared conversations. Yeah. That would be great.
Okay. Awesome. So, Lynn Murphy, Key Innovative. Okay, again.
Key Innovative Business Solutions.
Okay, keyinnovativebusinesssolutions.com. Lynn Murphy, if you're having some kind of conflict and who isn't, contact Lynn. Thanks a lot, Lynn.
Okay, Joe, thanks very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, you too.